Traffic Jam is on now.
Welcome to another episode of Traffic Jam. I'm your guest host, Kenny Williams, and I have with me here today, man, Comedy Central, man, mind of Mencia, Brad Williams, comedian Brad Williams. How you doing?
Hey, Kenny, nice to be here. Good to see you. Nice to be interviewed by another Williams. I got an uncle. Yeah, I got an uncle that always told me there's two types of people in this world, the Williams and the rest. He was a little arrogant, but that's okay. So, and if that's the case, then then this is going to be the best interview of all time.
You want to hear a crazy story? When I met my wife, come to find out that she was a Williams. So she didn't even have to change her name. She was already a Williams. I'm gonna still try to get her to be a Williams somewhere.
So do you like meet at a family reunion, or how'd that work? Yeah. Is this like a Rudy Giuliani marrying his cousin situation? Like, is this you appropriating white redneck culture? Is that what you're doing here?
So Brad, where are you from? You're saying redneck, but I know you. Where you from, brother?
I'm far from redneck. My parents were rednecks, but I was born and raised in Orange County, California. I'm as waspy as they get, man. White, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, like all that. Basically, when people say like the man is keeping us down, they're talking about my background. It's always weird to me when certain people like they try to deny who they are or who their family was or what they did for if you talk to a billionaire, it seems nowadays they try to downplay it, like, well, I don't have that much money, it's not liquid, it's not, it's like, dude, shut up, you're a billionaire. Just or they do the Vanilla Ice thing where it's like, no, man, I'm from the streets. It's like suburbs are not the streets. I mean, yes, there's streets there technically, but no, it's not the streets. So I just tell people, yeah, I had a great childhood. Parents were together. Dad made a good amount of money. Life was good.
And I could always appreciate that. It's like when guys come, especially it's 2020, man. We understand. You don't have to tell me. We just, I'll grab you right there where you are. We can still be friends. I know your name is not Christopher George Washington. You know what I mean? We'll just take it for right.
Exactly. I don't deny it for a second.
So how long you've been doing stand-up?
I've been doing stand-up comedy now for 17 years. In October, it'll be 18. I don't even know if we count. Maybe I have to. Maybe I'm still stuck on 16 because the last year I did like maybe 4 shows, and that. And
yeah.
With the whole 2020, but yeah, I've been at it. It's weird now. I've now gotten to that point where, like, it seemed like overnight I was just I was the young kid. I was always the inexperienced kid. Now I'm the guy that when I walk into the club in LA or New York or whatever, now everyone looks at me and goes like, oh, that's the dude that's been doing it for a while. Like, he's like, I'm like, God, I'm 37. Am I old man Williams all of a sudden? I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and my legs feel like I'm old man Williams. But yeah, like now there's a bunch of young kids that are asking me for advice and like, well, because I've been watching you for years, and I'm just like,
You were like, I became the OG of comedy at this point.
Dude, yeah, like there's a lot. Like I'm the elder statesman now, which is weird because I still go into a lot of rooms and I look around and I'm in awe of the people that I get to be around, whether it be people that have been doing it longer than me or not as long as me, but they're killing it in the game. Like I was in a green room last week with Nikki Glazer, Bill Burr, Tim Dillon, and Ian Edwards. And just like, I look at all those people, some have been doing longer than, some have been doing it way longer than me. And I looked at all those comics like, oh, I'm the shittiest. I'm the least funniest person in this room. Okay. Great. I'm just gonna hang out and try not to say anything stupid.
I'm Shannon Bobo, and you're watching The Traffic Jam.
So how did you get into stand-up comedy?
I took my dad to a show. I took my dad to a show in 2003, I want to say. That's not 2004. And it was a Father's Day show, and I took him, and we were just sitting in the audience, and the comedian on stage started making midget jokes, and half the audience is laughing, and the audience that's sitting by me is like, they're just not laughing at all. And the comedian notices that, and he goes, "What?" He goes, "Like, these are funny jokes. Why aren't you guys?" He goes, and he stops and goes, "What? Is one of them here?" And I raised my hand in the air. I was like, "Hey," and he saw me, and he invited me up on the stage. He's like, "Holy shit, I want to talk to you." So he invites me up on stage, and he asked me some questions. I answered the questions honestly. I wasn't thinking like, "Oh, I'll say this will be funny. I'll do," like, I just answered the questions, and my answers got laughs from the audience. And at that point, I'm like, "Oh, this is it. I'm in. This is what I'm gonna do." So literally, like, the next day, started writing down jokes, and then going up, finding open mic nights. My first ever spot was at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. They have an open mic there on Tuesdays. I think it's still there. I mean, the club is still there, but I think they still do open mics on Tuesdays. And it was great because I remember getting into that line, and there's a guy there, and he goes, "Hey, I've never seen you here before." I go, "Yeah, it's my first time on stage tonight." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Just follow me, do whatever I do. I've been an open micer now for 12 years. I just do whatever I do." In my head, I go, "Well, I don't want to be an open micer for 12 years. Like, I'm going to do whatever you don't do. Like if you go one way to the stage, I'm going the other, because obviously whatever way you're going isn't working." So, that I don't want to say the guy's name because maybe he's still doing open mics. I don't know, but maybe he'll like it. His name's Burger. Not Hamburger. That's a different.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not Hamburger. Hamburger's great. But no, his name's Burger. And so that and I just started doing open mics, and bombing horribly, but learning. There was one time, there was this coffee shop in Los Angeles called Marv and Mary's, and they did an open mic. And on the way to the open mic, right when I was trying to park, I got into a car accident. My fault. Not a major one, thankfully. But I tried to turn in front of a guy. I thought I had enough time. I didn't. Boom. We hit. And like, I needed to get in to do the spot. So like, as the cops are there and as they're taking interviews, I go, "Hold on." I run inside Marvin Mary's. I do my spot. And then I run back out and proceed to finish up with the cop and everything. So yeah, when I hear stuff like young comics talking about like what you need to do to make it and stuff like that, I go, "Okay, well, are you willing to get into a car wreck and run in and do a spot for no money? If you are, okay, this is going to be a good life for you. You're going to like this." If you're sitting there like, "Well, I got to do a car wreck, I'm going to go home. I'm not going to do my 3-minute spot in front of 5 drunks for no money," then it's not going to work. One of my favorite stories that I've heard is Jerry Seinfeld was having lunch with Michael Richards, and a guy came up, recognized Seinfeld, and said like, "Oh my God, you're famous, you're Jerry Seinfeld, whatever." And then says to them like, "I've been thinking about doing stand-up comedy." And Michael Richards looks up and goes, "You're never gonna make it." And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? Like, you don't even know. You haven't even seen me. You don't know what I can do." And he goes, "Because you said the words, 'I'm thinking about doing stand-up comedy.' Comedians don't think about doing it. They just do it." I was talking to a guy literally last night at a bar that was like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about it for about a year and a half, and that story just popped into my head. I go, you're never gonna do it. He goes, no, I'm gonna do it. I go, yeah. Why haven't you done it yet? He goes, I'm scared of bombing. I go, all right, well, guess what? You're gonna do that. So, like, if people are scared to bomb, it's like that's like, well, I'm not gonna skydive because I don't like falling, but I'm thinking about skydiving. It's like, well, that's part of it. You will fall. It's what you do. So, like, if you're scared about bombing stand-up comedy, then don't do it because you're gonna bomb. No one's ever gone through this business, name any comedian, and just never bombed. It's just a part of it.
It's just so. Do you remember that comedian that when you first started, when you was there with your father? Who was that comedian? Do you remember? Was it someone?
Yeah, that was Mencia. And then
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then he brought me up on the stage, and to extend the story out a little bit, I went to see him again about a year and a half after that show, and he recognized me from that night, and he goes, "Oh, hey, you're that guy, and you said you were going to start doing stand-up." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you start doing stand-up?" I go, "Yeah, I've been doing it about a year and a half, doing a bunch of open mics." He goes, "All right, well, let's see what you got. Let's throw you up, and let's see." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, okay, I can't even watch the show, but all right."
Wow.
And I go up on stage, and I do like 3 to 4 minutes, somewhere in there, and audience laughed. They liked me, and Mencia wasn't even supposed to go on next, but he runs up on stage, and he asks the audience, he goes, "Hey, that was Brad. Did you guys like Brad?" And everyone clapped and went, "Yeah, he was great." And then Mencia stops and goes, "Okay, you guys just made a very important decision for me. My current opening act, my current feature, he's ready to graduate. He's ready to move on. He's ready to start headlining and being a great comic. You guys really like Brad, so hey, Brad, you're my new opening act." And
wow,
literally like that. And then the
wow.
next week, I was doing coffee shops and open mics, and every now and then run into a Starbucks and just hop on a chair and just start yelling at people like a crazy person. And then the next week after that, he was doing the Fox Theater in Bakersfield, California, which is 1,200 people. So yeah, trial by fire, man.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
How many comedy specials have you done?
I've done 2 1-hour specials. I hosted a 1-hour special, but that was like me just doing some bits and bringing up other comedians, and they would do bits. And then I did a half-hour special for Netflix, and then I've done 2 comedy albums. So that's 4.5, 5 hours of content, you know. But and for the young comics listening, think about that for a second. I've been doing comedy 17 years, and what do I have out there? About 5 hours. Like, that's what's out there. That's what's out there that you can consume. Like, people think it's going to be like, oh, it's a new hour every year, or it's a new thing every year. It's like, I mean, once you make it to a certain level, you can absolutely do that, where you can be like, if Kevin Hart wants to put out a new hour every year, okay, he can do that. And he's got, you know, his crew that helps him, and he works out the material. But he can do it, because when Kevin Hart calls Netflix, they pick up the phone and say, "Yes, when can you do a special?" For other comedians, that's not necessarily the case. But yeah, two albums, 2 specials, one half hour, and then I hosted another one.
What out of your specials or the album, which one stands out to you?
Ooh, that's easy. That is easy. My second 1-hour special, which is actually airing on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. It's called Daddy Issues. I believe it was I want to say 2017. That one speaks the most to me, just because the ending. It's called Daddy Issues because I talk about my dad fighting and overcoming cancer. and he's in the audience when we're filming the special. And at some point I start talking about it, and in my head I go, do not look at him. Do not, like, this is a theater. It's 1,200 people, but I know where he's sitting, and I'm like, do not look at him. And then of course when you say that, you look at him, and I saw my dad, like, from the stage, I could see his eyes start to water up, and so I went off script, and I just started, like, essentially talking to him and thanking him for all that he did as a father. And then we have that moment, and that moment is captured forever on a special. And then I do it. It ends with, like, the audience clapping for him, and he's like fist pumping and stuff. And I'm just like, just the fact that I have that moment. Like, Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Mike Myers, like, he told this story one time that just made me insanely sad, where his dad died very young. And then he was on Inside the Actors Studio, and James Lipton goes, if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get there? And Mike Myers, just without hesitation, goes, he saw it, which is a reference to his dad dying young, but, like, he wants to know that his dad saw all the great things that he did and that he accomplished. I'm very lucky. My dad got to see specials and got to see me do that moment. He's still alive. I'm saying, like he's still alive. But and then I don't want to kill my dad off in an interview. Like, I don't want him to hear this and go like, wait, what? But he got to see that stuff. He got to see the specials. He got to see me get married. He got to see the birth of my daughter, his granddaughter. So yeah, like, the fact that, like, some people aren't that lucky, their dads don't get to see that, but mine did. I feel very fortunate for that.
So in your stand-up specials, well, let me go with this, a better question.
Sure.
You heard of Chris Rock, his top 5, right?
Yeah.
Who are your top 5 comics?
Ooh. That's a good one.
But let me, I'm gonna dress it up a little different, because a lot of times we get very generic and we go George Carlin and Robert, we do that.
Yeah, but, so I'll give you my Mount Rushmore, and that's kind of like all time. Wow. Like, because I feel like every comedian has to say the following 3 names. You have to say Pryor, you have to say Carlin, and you have to say Bruce. You have to say Lenny Bruce. And the reason why, for just how funny they were, and it's weird because you go back and you watch Richard Pryor's stuff now, and it almost seems hack, but then you realize, oh no, it's hack because he's the first one that did it. Like he's the first one that did, black people do this, white people do this. And, like, so now when we look back, it's like, oh, he's doing that material. It's like, yes, because no one else had done that shit before. Like, Carlin, Pryor, and Bruce, they took stand-up comedy from the Catskills and Take My Wife, Please, and they took it from that to the modern art form of stand-up comedy, which is talking about society, talking about personal stories and things like that. So they took it from the one-liners that didn't mean anything to actually telling a story and you finding out exactly who this person is. Because there's old footage of Pryor on the Ed Sullivan Show doing one-liners. Carlin used to walk out in a suit with slick black hair and, like, the whole, you would never recognize him. And then he kind of them all they changed the art form and what Bruce did in terms of challenging censorship and things like that. Yeah, so I'd say Carlin, Pryor, Bruce, and I'd also put Joan Rivers on there, just for what she did for women. In that there were female comics, but I mean, Joan Rivers was guest hosting the Tonight Show, like that with Carson. Like, she was doing unbelievable things and just being so funny. And she was offered, and she had a late night show on Fox, the first woman in late night, when there was 4 channels. So it's not like now where it's like, yeah, you could have a late night talk show on Freeform or whatever. Like there's all these different channels and things that you can do that on. But no, like four channels, Joan Rivers, late night show. So I would put them on my Mount Rushmore. that doesn't necessarily mean they're my personal favorite comics, but I feel like every comedian has to give props to those people because of what they did for the art form.
So who outside of them is currently now, like in your journey?
Yeah,
like,
I'll give you my 5.
Okay.
Chris Rock, my God, just everything. Constantly reinventing himself, constantly challenging himself. Love his stuff. I love what Bill Burr is doing. I can always watch Bill Burr do comedy, and it's just unreal. Jim Jeffries. I like guys. I like people that push the boundaries. I really do. I like people that just when you think you have them figured out and what their point of view is, they completely switch it around, and then they completely surprise you, and they're constantly shocking you. I love that. And so, all right, so top 5. So those are 3 that I really like, and then Christopher Titus. I love Titus. Christopher Titus does long form, like one-man show type stuff. And so I talked about my special daddy issues. I don't do that show in the way I was able to talk about very serious topics like my dad fighting cancer without the influence of Titus, because Titus taught me how to go into that kind of darkness and bring light out of it. And so yeah, his special Norman Rockwell is Bleeding. It's just awesome. It's just one of the best specials. And then I would also say here's one that not a lot of people know, but I've literally never seen her have a bad set. She's comic out of New York. Her name is Jessica Kirsten. And she is holy shit. Like every now and then she's in New York, but every now and then she comes out to LA and I go to the Comedy Store and I see her, and you just see her blow people away in terms of like, they don't she's in her either 40s or 50s, and people are like, oh, I don't know who this person is, so she's probably not that good. And then just nonstop jokes, really inventive, and it's almost more fun to see people in the audience react to her than watching her specifically. But yeah, she's awesome. So if anyone's listening is like, oh, who's that, please look her up. Bill Burr produced a special that she did, and yeah, it was just fantastic. So yeah, those are my 5 right now. Rock. I mean, it's weird I say that, but then it's so hard because then what Chappelle is doing with the medium in terms of like Dave Chappelle is becoming a modern day Socrates. Like he's a philosopher. Like he's doing stuff that is funny, that speaks truth to power and puts stuff in a perspective that someone who isn't Black or doesn't have his life experiences, they can look at his words and go, oh, that's why there's pain there. That's why that hurts. That's why they're reacting in a way like oh, okay, now I get it. So does Chappelle make me like belly laugh? Like not as much, but because for me, like comedy is different styles of music, and there's like hard rock and metal that's just nonstop in your face. Let's do power chords. Let's sing really fast. Let's do that. And then so that would be like a Bill Burr. And then I look at Chappelle as like jazz. Jazz, it's slower, it's calmer, but it doesn't mean there's any less skill or you don't get any less out of it. With Chappelle, you learn so much. So yeah, like I did my top 5, but like I feel like I'd be a horrible human being if I didn't keep Dave Chappelle on that list for just what he's doing. So yeah.
So in your journey, what has been your biggest obstacle you had to hurdle?
Okay. It's interesting because my biggest obstacle, it was also my biggest advantage at the same time. So when I started doing stand-up, I would get booked on shows because people wanted something different. They didn't want just your average straight white dude going on stage and telling jokes. So I got booked. They're like, oh, little person comedian, dwarf comedian. Okay, that's a different perspective. That's so we can get some diversity in the lineup and get different perspectives and points of view. So it started out being really good. Then it got to the point where I had to prove to other people that I wasn't just funny because I'm a dwarf. I'm funny and I happen to be a dwarf. It's like, so that's that obstacle, getting people to see me as just a funny comedian and not the funny midget comedian. That was probably the biggest obstacle. But now it's weird. Like now my set, like I'll tell people, I will never not do dwarf jokes, but I'll say it's because I don't know how to write from the perspective of a 6'2" guy. Like I don't know. I don't know what that life is like. I've had things. I have things happen to me that doesn't happen to that. Like literally just right before we got on this interview. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah right now. I'm on the road, and I took one of those like Lime scooters, and I went and got lunch. And literally, I drove by this group of people, and they all just like, huh? Like they all just like, they like immediately tried to pull out their phones and tried to get something because they were just having a day, and then they looked up and it's midget on a scooter, and they're like, "This is magical." Like I don't know what this is like. So that's something that I experienced that your average guy my age, like on a scooter, that's no big deal. But I do it, and it's somehow now a thing, and it's funny. So like I will never be completely done doing dwarf jokes because new stuff is happening all the time. But my entire set isn't like, well, I could take a bath in a thimble. That's weird. Like it's not that shit. It's like real stories. It's real observations. And there's a good part of it that has nothing to do with me being a little person at all. But I'll always write stuff that is in that world.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
Hi everyone, I'm going to show you 2 exercises of abs. One of my favorites is actually the plank position. For women, I recommend you to do crunch, reverse crunch, and I will explain why on the topic a little bit later. For men, you can do regular crunches. Follow me? So you want to make sure as well, when you do your plank position, that your shoulder, your arm are completely aligned. So since we come here, you want that alignment, you don't want to be here. Keep your abs strong and your back straight. For beginner, of course, you can go on your knee. You can open your leg, it's much easier, or you can keep them closed. I would recommend 20, 30 seconds to 40 seconds for a beginner and going on your way up. For those more advanced, you can actually twist. You can move forward or just stay. And go for as long as you want.
Hey, Brad, man. Hey, thank you for your time, brother, man. And I would definitely, man, what do you have coming up? And how can people follow you, social media?
Yeah, just go to bradwilliamscomedy.com. I'm touring. I think I have 3 weeks off the rest of the year in 2021. So I'm touring like a madman. If I'm not in your city, just wait. I'll be there. And then follow me on Twitter @funnybrad. Follow me on Instagram @BradWilliamsComic. There's links to all of those on my website. So just remember Brad Williams Comedy. Go there, see my tour schedule. Hopefully I'm coming to your city and buy a ticket because the show's really fun right now. We got 5 sold out shows here in Salt Lake City this weekend. Did one last night, really fun. So I like to write back. So if you write me, I'll probably write you back unless you're being an asshole, and then I won't write you.
Hey, much success in your comedy journey, man. Thank you for stopping through Traffic Jam, man. I've been Kenny Williams, and this is Brad Williams, man. Hey, thank you, brother.
Thank you. From one Williams to another.
Yeah.
This is the Traffic Jam.